Welcome back to the WatchTower Film Podcast, the film review podcast on the Towercast Network. Hi, cinephiles. For cinephiles, and he's back, ladies and gentlemen. You heard that groan. I'm back.
He's holding it.
We have.
He's trying to get through the intro.
Did you guys catch it a couple episodes ago? All he did was just slurp on his drink for the first couple minutes. It was like
protest. Yeah, somebody caught that.
Is this what this podcast is to now? Just ways to protest us?
Yeah, it was just like, because for the past months,
Damn.
I've been censored.
Yeah, no, for the past months, every episode starts off with Austin being like, okay, let me turn off Delo's mic, and then we'll start the episode. So it's just like, and then it's like, okay, sit there.
But you didn't finish because you're always like 5, 4, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, I've been censored. They kept the man down.
but not this time.
So introduce
Welcome
yourself.
back. Yeah, I behave. It's like that. I was gonna say that scene, but it's a book, 1984. You know, when they finally
the
get
George
to,
Orwell.
Yeah, like they finally get to them, and then it's like, oh, do you want to be free? It's like, nah, I'm just
Similar to this film, Natalie Wood's character didn't want to be freed because she was with her people, quote unquote.
Well, doesn't she come back?
I mean, yeah.
yeah. After John Wayne just says, "Come on, Tubby."
Before I introduce the film, I want to introduce my fellow co-host, Mr. Jean-Eric Castro, offering a acting perspective.
Acting perspective and a take on this Western film with John Wayne, who's an interesting character.
Was it John Wayne or his character in the film?
Well, his character.
or the westerns.
Nah, his character on this one was not what I thought John Wayne was. This is my first introduction to John Wayne.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I think it was Austin's too.
No. Family Guy introduced me to John Wayne.
Not the real
same.
John Wayne. Although,
close.
accounts are pretty similar
Pretty
to that,
close.
that what he does. When he's like beating up the dude.
Oh, no, I was thinking of where Peter Griffin was like, here's my impression of John Wayne on Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, pilgrims.
Yes. And to your left.
Mr. Michael Law.
It's gonna Wayne.
Cinematography perspective.
It's going to
rain.
It's going Wayne.
That was going through my head the entire time. It's gonna Wayne. You know, every time he pops on the screen.
That's good.
Hi, it's good to be here.
Yeah, welcome back.
By the way, I was going to tell you this earlier, but I didn't want to interrupt the intro.
Appreciate that.
I don't know if I'm the only one that does this. Like, you know when you're at an event and people start clapping, right? Mm-hmm. Do you just have, a default clap?
Sure.
You don't have, multiple?
No.
No?
I do.
You do?
Yeah. There's a difference between you're cheering for somebody and then, you have to clap to now. Okay.
Yeah. And if they do a bad job, you don't just kind of...
I'll probably that guy, dude. I stopped too soon.
Oh
I'm that guy.
yeah. There's a pettiness to my clapping. If I'm really enjoying it, I'll be there, going, I know how to make a right clap. But then, if I'm really not feeling it, I'll limp it, or I'll do the straight hand. Just
I think that's why I don't clap anymore, because I genuinely just
I think most of us agree with that.
Yeah, no,
I was one of those Larry David moments. I'm just I'm not gonna clap. I'm just not gonna clap.
You should just clap in sign language.
And I have a really loud clap too.
Yeah, exactly.
Prove it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna waste my clap on this.
They haven't earned it. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, you haven't.
come on, I paid to be here.
Yeah.
I was at the Chihuahuas the other day, and then we're clapping for random things. But then when they started doing bad, I'm like,
No.
yeah, you didn't get it. I'm sorry.
He's taking his claps back. He's like, give me the fucking clap
Not
back.
even in rhythm, just
Yeah, you're almost.
But you're the type of person that clap when the plane lands, aren't you?
No, but I get very upset at people who do,
No, I don't get upset at that. I get upset when it's at the theater. You guys have not been to an experience like on an airplane where something pops and blows up, dude. I have. I clapped.
What? Huh?
I was in an experience where I went to Mazatlan, but we couldn't land because it was too windy. And in the intercom, the pilot said, we're going to try one more time. If not, we're going to land in Puerto Vallarta. And I remember we're landing, and then suddenly it's just something on the left wing pops. Just and my dad just told me, just put your head down. And I remember a little girl yelling and shit. No, he landed nice and shit. But when we all left we're like, yes!
That's different than
that's what I'm
you're landing in, I don't know, El Paso at a very common hour, 10 o'clock at night.
Get the hell out of here, man.
Yeah, and it's okay, well, we got to wait a little while to taxi because somebody didn't tell us that somebody else was landing here first.
Yeah.
Just what are you waiting for?
Anyways.
But the theater sucks.
Anyway, it's gonna wane.
I don't think I have that much of a problem with clapping. What was the point of the story?
Yeah, you brought it up.
And lastly,
What is the clapping? And I want to know.
Second lastly.
our host with the most, giving us the bestest with his westest, Austin.
Damn, son, I'm gonna use that.
Westus.
Watch this.
How's the weather looking?
West,
It's going right.
west of us.
It's gonna wane.
And lastly, our humble film servant,
In the middle with the
Carlos?
slick hair.
With the what?
With the slick hair.
The slick hair?
No,
Money.
let's try this again. Carlos.
Dela.
Manuel.
No. Oh my God.
I fucked it up.
Lastly,
I'm your humble film
wait,
servant,
wait, wait,
Carlos.
wait.
I already did it.
No.
Oh, go.
Here we go. Our humble film servant, Carlos
M.
De.
La.
Torre.
Hey.
Hey.
All right, clap then. Clap then.
No,
Fucking clap.
this is one of those claps where it's like,
Dick.
No, it's the clap from
The golf clap.
Yeah,
pinche plazo a medio.
I think that means something else.
I'm fairly certain it's...
We don't get started with this podcast.
This
All right.
podcast is definitely
Really?
derailed for
By
a bit.
the way,
definitely
like there was a small moment in high school, right? Me and Librado were having a competition.
There's one time in band camp.
No. It's because we had this question like, well, what about paraplegic people? Why can't they clap? Like, we're all here. I don't think it's paraplegic people. I'm pretty sure it's other. Anyway, anybody who isn't able to use their hands or arms, we're like, I wonder how they clap. And
I respect everybody out there.
Legs, buddy.
no. Oh, the quadras.
The quadras?
Anyways, what film are we here to talk about today, Carlos?
Well, anyway, we discovered.
You know them so much that you just
we
chop the word in half.
discovered that there's one-handed clapping, and it's
The neck.
No, it's this, and I don't want
I
to
do like the leg. Like
Yeah,
get
the leg.
right
No.
out.
It looks really stupid, and I don't want to do it. But it's when you like snap your hand and you like bring it in. You gotta like you're clapping with the one hand, it slaps. And
Here's the question
there's
for me, and I'm pretty sure all the audience.
competitions to
What
see-
does this have to do with John Wayne?
We're here to talk about
How do you do it?
19
It's like
like
this.
that.
You never done that?
No, you gotta like that.
That's how I'm gonna
practiced.
That's how I'm gonna cut every take when we're on the set from now on. Just
Anyways, what film are we here to talk about today? Because we are a film podcast.
we're here to celebrate West of us.
West of us.
This
for the
month-
rest
West of us for the rest of us.
This month we're gonna cover 4 westerns because we feel like it's something we haven't quite touched on as much on this podcast.
Yeah, and we've wanted to touch it for
Western
quite a
cinema
while.
is just so important, so
get it.
vastly important
Western
for.
cinema.
What do you mean?
It's funny because we're West month, but it's like Western cinema. Like you're talking about it like a regional thing, but it's also a genre.
Western
This is why
I
you get
spilled
muted.
water.
genre.
This is why you get muted.
You're on the last strike, right?
Westerns as a whole, just cinematically, have been so important for the history of cinema.
I did notice like a lot of techniques you see in like modern cinema.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
this.
Delao called one out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Landscape photography is just this is the film where John Ford really started painting with landscapes. We're talking about John Ford's 1956 Western. Some people would call it John Ford's best film.
Or some people call it the best Western.
Yeah, absolutely. The Seachers, starring
The
John
Searchers.
Wayne, or as other people like to call him, the Duke
The
Now,
Duke.
question
Or
regarding
Mary.
Western.
or Marion.
Or Tall. What did you do? Tall.
No. So the Navajos had a fun name for John Wayne on the set that he got
Wayne.
on the set of this film, which I guess I'll open up with. So there was a little girl on set, a little Native American girl, who fainted for some reason. Like something happened where she fainted, and like I think it was just like the weather and stuff. And there was no nearby hospitals. They're in the middle of Monument Valley in the Arizona-Utah border, the desert. And John Wayne had his private plane on set because he's John Wayne. It was one of the biggest stars at the time. And he had his plane, and he said, "Hey, let's fly the little girl to the nearest hospital. Like, take her." And they took her and like saved her life. Like apparently she was going into like shock because of heat stroke.
Was she a part of the?
She was like an extra, yeah. And And they took her to the hospital and saved her or whatever, and then they come back. And the Navajos called John Wayne man with, what was it? Man with the,
Big shoulders.
Tall shoulders.
something like man with the metal eagle or something like that. Man with the metal eagle or man with the double eagle. I think it was double eagle because of his big fucking plane that saved the little girl. So,
Okay.
So man with the big eagle or something like that. Google it. It's like, you can find it. But, yeah, so John Wayne's nickname from the Navajos was that.
I have a question.
Well, Google it before you ask your question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This was before like child labor
Well, definitely.
laws were in place.
Well,
Before they didn't have a law against hurting the animals.
Oh my god,
That
dude. I thought
too.
about that too for a second. I was just like,
Yeah, I don't
damn.
know. I just feel more bad every time I see older films with animals.
Yeah,
I'm like, you know, they got beat.
It's definitely in the trivia.
Because you know that wasn't just like one take.
It's like eagle.
Trivia. Yeah, like whenever you would watch like the horses like take a nosedive into water or mud.
Man
you
with the
just-
big eagle. There you go. Man with the big eagle.
the big eagle.
That's the Navajos.
That's called the
Navajos
big
named
eagle.
him. The big
Navajo.
eagle. Yeah, Navajos.
No, we should be really nice. The Navajos named him that.
They definitely did. You had a question.
Yeah, I feel like anytime we introduce a new genre, like for a new month, we should definitely kind of discuss what constitutes it, like
Yeah.
a Western.
Sure.
Because we've been having this conversation for the past couple weeks. Is since there's a modern Westerns, what constitutes
Conversation
a
or
Western?
dispute.
Well,
I think the tradition of I do have an answer that is a through line for all Westerns. But traditionally, right, we have, and this is a very like reductive maybe way to say it, but it's cowboys versus Indians. It's good guy
Ooh,
versus bad
that's
guy,
pretty
set in the Western in the 1800s.
In the Western
frontier.
frontier.
Yeah, the new frontier.
The new frontier.
And the through line, genuinely, is Westerns represent change. And so anytime America was going through some kind of change, be it war, be it
Post-war.
economically, societal, post-war, Westerns were a big deal because they were allegories for change in America.
Really?
And this one is a huge one that, like, when we really sink our teeth into it right now, it'll blow your mind how this was being used as an allegory. John Ford was a fucking genius, an asshole,
The director.
but very much a genius. Yeah, so that's America changing. That's genuinely what a
That kind
Western
of makes
is
sense. How I'm
representing.
thinking of some of the Westerns we're going to cover.
Yeah, think about, right, like, I feel like modern Westerns are taking a turn of, like, cops and robbers, right?
Yeah.
But again, good guys, bad guys. That's
That's because, like,
the
for
component.
example, I'm thinking of Hell or High Water that we're going to cover later this month. It's
Change.
like the financial crisis in
Yeah.
the States, cops and robbers. And
But you said it's more Indians versus cowboys.
the
Same,
original-
what are cops and what are
I mean,
bad
Indians-
guys?
Really?
Cowboys are cops, Indians are bad guys, right?
and that's the way that they were painted
Think
for
about
like a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's exactly how they're painted in
but
this
they're
film.
not bad guys, the Indians.
Well, that's the thing. So a lot of people, there wasn't controversy in this film at the time because great big white American hero beats the Indians, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how this film was going to be released. That's the audience that you were going to appeal to. And the interesting part about that kind of perspective is that John Ford had a whole thing about, I wonder if you can look it up. He had a whole take on the Indians being represented fairly. You could just say that, like, Google John Ford, Indian representation fair, or whatever. And he was basically saying, like, look,
He wanted to portray them.
we're gonna portray him the way history shows.
Okay.
Because the automatic assumption right now is that we take the Indians' representation of, like, no, but they're a sacred tribe, and we took their country and we took their, you know what I mean? But by the same token, they didn't welcome people with open arms. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was constant
Because they
like,
knew their intents.
No, how?
Well,
no.
There was a clear
we're-
assumption that there was going to be war because there are people who don't look like us. That's how Indians perceived anybody who came to this country also. And by the way,
But it's-
I don't want to get into it like super philosophically because I love, there's a great take, if you
Yeah,
know George Carlin is, amazing, legendary comedian who passed away. He had an amazing take on American history and like gave lectures on this shit.
George Carlin.
And it just like really like blows my mind. Just a short like clip that I saw on TikTok the other day of him saying like, first of all, yes, I take offense to calling Indians Native Americans because nobody's native here. Genuinely, nobody's native here. Even Indians came from the Rockies that didn't belong to America once upon a time. Like he gets into a whole thing about how nobody's from here, so nobody should be calling themselves natives, including Native Americans, because that's almost more offensive because they don't consider themselves that. They consider this a land that they kind of took over too. And then the other side of that coin is like, and Indians, yes, that's how Christopher Columbus was perceiving them. That's more than likely where many of the tribes came from. So like historically, it's not offensive. It's kind of just observational. And there's a whole thing, but like, and I'm not on either side of that coin. Whatever you want to be identified as is your business. But John Ford as a director was not trying to repaint history to America's favor. He was basically saying, look, it was war, period. And all is fair in love and war. There's no right or wrong when it comes to this situation. Even in America's own history, right? The Civil War, which we kind of touch on here, and why our lead character is the way he is, coming from a war that he lost.
Yeah,
right?
I want to talk about that.
And so there's just, I think it's cool to open up this conversation with saying like, it's not just that the Indians are painted negatively; it's that they were painted positively according to the times. According to those times, they were savages. They were attacking people they didn't know. They didn't, they weren't opening,
Also,
they weren't
I feel like they had a right to do that.
Sure, but they weren't a peaceful tribe either.
I get it, but
they started a war.
You can ask, but once they still keep coming, you got to go from asking to
action. There's a weird thought that I was having like during the movie, but whenever you see like depictions of Native Americans as like
Indios.
As you see the depiction of these people, like the Apache and all that kind of stuff, with any type of weaponry, it's not like back at their camp they have a nice little manufacturing district where they're able to make bullets and all that. That means that anything that is resembling of like weapons or like bullets and all that kind of stuff, that means that they had to go and kill people who owned those items so that way they themselves, the tribe, could use it. And whenever you see them, they always have it. And even in like old historical photographs like of Geronimo and all that kind of stuff, you see him have those things, but a lot of that's kind of like, oh, you weren't going and buying these things. You weren't walking to town and being like, oh, we're going to buy so much ammunition and all that.
No, they took them from just their victims.
They had to like kill off people. Like, and I think
straight Red Dead Redemption
it's really interesting. It's really interesting that whole dynamic of like, there was this constant conflict and battle between like who gets rights to land and area. Something interesting that Austin just pulled up that I was reading, they feel like in John Ford's depiction of the Indians, even though a lot of people say that it would like it's more aligned with these kind of like stereotypes and racism and everything, but again, it goes back to that was just the way they were depicted at the time. Him as a director actually wanted to, he gave the most empathy and was trying to always humanize them. Like when you looked at the different films that have the Indians and the tribes, they have people that, sure, they're in, I guess, like, they're white people painting themselves to look like Indians. Right. But in those moments, they're also creating a connection. Like he has wives, they have families. There's like
they're portraying them genuinely as well, not just as people, but as a sacred tribe with principles of their own. Yeah, they're not loopy people that are just crazy for the sake of being crazy. They have their own belief system.
No morals,
and that's something you really don't see at that time, like in cinema. That's what I was noticing too. I was like, wow, he really humanized them in this. And it's you really don't see it. Like, even nowadays, you really don't see it much anymore. I think maybe Marty did with Killers, but like outside of that, whenever there's like Indians in movies, it is very much like they're just straight up savages. And this is probably what
I always thought because it was for a reason, right? Like
it's because they need like a bad guy, And the way that they depict them, and I think in a lot of films, is the heroes of the film are trying to accomplish something, but then they get ambushed by these savages that just want to go in and kill them. So when they're fighting against them, they're really not fighting against people. They're fighting against monsters that come out of the bushes and all that.
Well, here's my next question: who's the real hero on this one? Because definitely not John Wayne. He's the hero.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it anti-hero as much as I would call it put yourself in that whatever
Dude,
perspective.
he wanted to kill his niece just because she was just like those guys now. Like those guys.
That's where that's where
that time, that's how.
But that's where the arc is.
No, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying that's still bad. That's still
That's
bad.
where the arc is.
Also, like, because look what he's viewing. He's viewing her being this 14-year-old girl that's been taken by the leader of a tribe.
Right.
And the leader of the tribe has like 4 wives, and she's one of them. And he just kind of barks at her to like go and get his scalping staff.
Yeah.
And like he's thinking like, oh, it's almost like putting down a sick dog. It's like, what kind of life is she living? Like, is she really going to be like in this place where, you know, like?
But still,
no, it's messed up.
It's still like the whole thing of like pulling the plug on somebody's about to die. Like euthanasia is kind of like, no, like let them die, let them ride it out.
That's the thing.
I know that's way, but I'm saying like she's still
I'm looking
alive,
for
the
the interview because there was a great interview. It was like a little excerpt. I might have seen it on IMDb's trivia stuff, but there's a really great kind of excerpt that John Ford puts it in perspective for people about kind of how he was just like, hey, I'm not on either side of this coin.
Oh, okay.
But in this scenario where somebody is kidnapping somebody else, they're the bad guys. I mean, it's kind of black and white in that scenario. And what does the chief say? The chief says, 2 of my sons killed by white men.
Right.
So I can take as many scalps as I please. That's fine.
That's a good line.
But was it these men specifically, or are you just generalizing any white man? That's the point.
Yeah.
That's what I love about this film is that even in 1956, there were films that are going to say, hey, who do you think is right? Take this and decide for yourself.
But at the time, still, it was like John Wayne was the good guy, right?
Well, I don't know because in my opinion, this is a weird kind of like perspective of John. It's so layered. This film, the top layer, John Wayne's the good guy.
Right.
The surface layer,
right.
The common audience will say yes, yeah, fucking America, right?
Right.
But he's layering this thing so well to say, hey, slow your roll.
I got a couple, yeah.
He's got some fucking issues. First of all, he's a racist. Huge, blatant racist.
Big time.
And it kind of coincides a little bit with John Ford's and John Wayne. They were both crazy white wing nuts.
Okay.
They just were. That was their belief systems, right?
Sure, yeah.
But he didn't in my opinion, he didn't how do I put this? He didn't impose that into his films. You know, this isn't super right. This isn't what's the film from the 1920s? You know, this isn't
I know what you're talking about. The
KKK film where they're
heroes.
heroes.
Oh, the one that they shot at the White House. Oh no, not that one, right? Or see?
No, that's that one.
I know the name too.
How am I? It's like one of the first features in the Birth of a Nation.
Birth of a
This isn't the Birth of a Nation,
yeah.
right? This isn't not Birth of a Nation,
right?
Okay, the Ku Klux Klan, sure, at the time was just like this quote unquote political party, and they were dressed as heroes and whatever. But that's blatantly wrong. That there's no this. Although this in this scenario, it's not right. Like there is a tribe who kidnaps and rapes and pillages and attacks and kills, and they're not painted as savages compared to the real people at that time. They may have been defending their country. He may have been, but at the end of the day, he was also getting revenge just openly to any white men he sees, you know, and that's not right either.
And also,
you know?
When you see like John Wayne and the way his character is set from the very beginning,
don't read that one. I'm going to say that one later.
I'm looking for the
Yeah, but when you see John Wayne, like towards the beginning, he's so upset about like this notion of having to come back from the war.
Yeah.
Because again, like he's on the South Side and he wasn't like...
You could say like Comanches.
He was with the Confederate, right?
Yeah, he was with the Confederate. They didn't win, but he goes back home and it's a very kind of like... I had to give up something that I was willing to fight with, and then
I mean, they even used the currency as like the difference. I was like, here's the gold, and here's Yankee dollars, which are the
and he's just so embittered, and I mean, that comes across in all of his scenes where that when they're getting ambushed by all the Indians. And then he goes and he's shooting them. And then as they're retreating, it's like, okay, they're retreating. You don't have to keep going. He's like, nah, I'm going to keep, shooting as much as I need to. And it's his way of like, I don't care if the rest of you give up. I'm going to be known as the guy who never gave up, And that's so weird.
That's
Might have been, you know where it
That'll be the
is?
day.
Check the Seachers Wikipedia. That'll be the day. Yeah, it is weird. It is weird, but it's not meant to be one-sided. It's not meant to be black and white. It's meant to present this. And I feel like this is one of the earliest examples I've seen in cinema that is going to do that. Short of like Kurosawa films in the 40s and stuff like that, and some Hitchcock stuff, it's like, who do you think is right? Like, here is all of the information. You pick your side. Naturally, if you're a right-wing nut or like a true blue American, well, John Wayne is John Wayne, right? But I feel like this film, compared to other 1950s films, is not so black and white.
Yeah.
It's not so straight-laced. This is the winner.
Yeah.
This is the
In what sense? Where's the gray area?
the gray area.
Where like we don't know who's right,
Well,
who's,
like,
who's the hero.
Yes. Let me read it.
Go for
Okay.
it.
So he did an interview in 1964, mind you, almost 10 years later, John Ford, and he said, there's some merit to change that the Indian the Indian hasn't been portrayed accurately or fairly in the Western. But again, this charge, I'm sorry, let me reread that. There's some merit to the charge that the Indian hasn't been portrayed accurately or fairly in the Western. But again, this charge has been a broad generalization and often unfair.
Right.
The Indian didn't welcome the white man, and he wasn't diplomatic. If he had been treated unfairly by whites in films, that unfortunately was often the case in real life. There was much racial prejudice in the West on both sides.
I just feel like one side had a more of a reason.
I
I
think
think it just the whites were just
The
that sounds
larger-
really bad, but Americans were just barging into a property that wasn't theirs.
the larger
By the way, first
picture-
of all, it wasn't
yeah.
Americans; it was Europeans, right? If we really go back to the history of it.
Oh, and I mean, even if you look at like the father guy,
Yeah.
the father guy, I forgot what his last
Yeah,
name
yeah,
was,
he was,
but he's
Italian
a foreigner.
or
Yeah, he's
something?
like Italian or
yeah,
something
but
like that.
it was Europeans. And I think that's what he's trying to say is America doesn't exist. Like, we were British and European and Spaniards
then the
who
kid
came
said-
to attack this fucking country that wasn't ours.
Like the kid said, he's part Welsh.
Oh, that's what I
Okay,
want.
right.
That's what I want to talk about. What about the
1/8
kid that he brings
Comanche.
along?
The 1/8 Comanche that
Half and half.
that he likes, that he doesn't like. He wasn't half and half, and he stated that.
Oh,
but that 1/8 of him, he fucking hates. What about him?
Why is he all of a sudden nice to him?
Because imagine being the sidekick, right? Imagine being
For 5
the
years.
Sundance Kid to Butch Cassidy for 5 years, for longer than 5 years, right? It was
No,
like,
because the search happened for 5 years before they actually
Oh,
got
yeah.
her.
well, imagine being the guy that you despise, an eighth of this man. He's a mutt.
Yeah,
That's such a
good way to
great
put it.
arc. Because at the end of the day, this kid was taken in by the little girl's family. He's not even blood related. But he loves the family so much. He loved the family so much
was willing to die
that
for
he's still willing to die for them. He's still willing to get this girl to do the right thing and to protect the only thing he considers family. I think Ethan saw that right away.
Who was trying to protect his niece?
Him,
Ethan?
and the boy.
But we found out Ethan wasn't really trying to protect his niece.
What do you mean?
He was trying to kill her.
No. That's not what
Not
we
at the
find
beginning.
out.
Well,
Like,
He only
he starts-
he only got to that point where he saw her grown up with the
I
Indian
think he
tribe.
already knew.
No.
He was like, yo, he's spending way too much time with them. She's bound to be brainwashed or whatever.
All he
Also-
said was she's probably dead because of how savages these people are. That's what he kept saying. People were arguing with him, like, stop saying she's dead
Yeah,
or
probably,
something.
but I think he had it in him, like, she's not going to be the same.
I'll say this. Also, if you look at Ethan's character the entire time, whenever he does discover inklings of the truth, like kind of like at the canyon, where it's like, oh, so you found her, the girl. And he's like, yeah, but don't worry about it. Or like when the house burns down,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, let me go in and see like mom and pa. And it's like, no, you can't go in there.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm stopping you from seeing the horrors. But what is he doing? He's acting as both like judge and jury. Like he's decided what is appropriate. Even when he tosses the lady and the mother of I forget her name. Like,
oh, you're a lady.
Yeah,
Go
you're
inside.
a lady. Like, go inside.
Yeah,
he's a big proponent of he is gonna understand what's right and what's wrong, what people should see and what they shouldn't see.
Okay.
And
I don't know how right or wrong is this on the surface level because we're people of color. This is gonna sound very hypocritical, but my interpretation of this film is Little Debbie, you know, like the snacks, like the Little Debbie snacks. Little Debbie is a representation of America. So once she's taken by other people, she's tainted.
Yeah.
Right, once other people come inside America, right? She's tainted. She's now a mutt, right? She now belongs to the savages.
Exactly.
So I think it's again on the surface level, it's not saying what this film or Ethan's character is not saying what's right and wrong. He's learning a lesson.
But that's what I'm saying. It didn't just pop into his head once he saw her with them. It was like, no. Way before he was trying.
I think he had inklings, but I don't think it was like I'm the Terminator. I'm gonna kill this bitch. I don't think that was the case. I think again, if I interpret it in that way of like Little Debbie is America and we gotta save her from the savages, he still cares for her. He's still like he will take like his life for her, right? Another thing that you guys are missing a piece of the puzzle, and it's not your fault because nobody fucking caught this. Nobody in America caught this for 10 years. Well, let me tell you.
I might have caught it.
Okay, fine. What is it?
No, but what are we talking about? what are you talking about?
This is what I'm talking about, and this is something that John Ford has openly said is true.
Right.
I wasn't going to bring it up this early in the episode, but let's get into it. Ethan comes back from the war, and who's the first person he sees on the stoop, on the porch?
On the early, who was it? I don't remember.
His brother's wife.
Yeah.
That's who greets him at the door. And when you see them interact, there's a hint of love there.
Yeah.
Like lots of hugging, lots of kissing, lots of touching, and then even when they're at the dinner table, at the breakfast table, dinner table, whatever, they're sitting next to each other. She's constantly like, "What else can I get you? What else do you need?" And at first glance, you're like, "Okay, she's a serviceable wife," you know, greeting the brother or whatever. But there's even a part where she's like, where he says, the brother says like, "Oh, you can stay here as long as you like. Ain't that right, Martha?" I think her name is Martha. And then she's like, kind of uncomfortable about it. But she's kind of like nodding. And again, the subtlety is insane. But once you're at the breakfast table, the biggest clue that you get of all of this is that you say, "Oh, well, little Debbie's 80 years old now. And it's been about 8 years since we've seen you."
I did catch that, I think.
So
8 years, and then it's been 8.
This has been confirmed by John Ford that the real reason that he's chasing after his niece, it's not because it's to avenge his brother's death. It's because he has a very good feeling that this is his kid.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a good twist.
But that fuels it more, right? That's justifiable.
That makes a little bit more
Unlike,
sense.
I just came back from a war where we can't decide the people we are, and the American West is still being taken over, and what is this country going to end up being? We stand for so many rights, and my kid is going to be on the wrong side of the equation? No.
I got to put it down.
My neck.
It was out of love, right? Like it's complete.
Love.
Wait. He's not.
I know what you're saying.
There's no point in time other than when we the sleight of hand of when he carries her. There's no point in time where he's physically doing any damage to her or trying to.
Isn't he trying to shoot her? Like,
when?
Isn't he chasing her? And then
he's not shooting her.
Oh, no. And then in the part where we did think he was going to shoot her, if you remember, there was a person up at the top.
And that's
they're perched around. Like they were all coming down in, you know? Like
there's no point in time where he's trying to hurt her.
Because from the guy, I forgot what's his partner. What's his partner?
Well, yeah, because he's an asshole and he's like, fuck her. Like she's with the mutts now. Probably. Like whatever, right?
What's his partner's name?
The kid?
I don't know. What is his name?
Jeffrey Hunter's character, Austin. Can you scroll down?
Dude.
But anyway, the kid.
Yeah.
Ethan pulls out
Martin Pauly.
Martin, there we go.
Ethan pulls out his gun, and then Martin's like, "No, you can't hurt her," and then jumps in front. But then
move out of the way.
But I think everybody's like in the whole perspective of like, oh no, like something bad's gonna happen. Yeah. But then right as he's like pointing, you see that there's people circling around, and then that's when he's trying to aim up, you know. But they're like on the ridge, like it's again, it's
a sleight of
subtle.
hand. It's a sleight of hand. It's a trick to the audience.
Yeah.
It's a trick to the audience of being like, oh yeah, right.
But it's enough so, and with the angles and everything, that you're convinced, oh no, Ethan does want to put her down.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, at the very end, when he finally catches up to her, it's like, just come home, Debbie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Come on, Debbie.
Jean-Luc Godard, French New Wave fucking legend, has a great thing that says about, which I think kind of encompasses just this whole film. He says, I hate John Ford's right-wing nut, fucking principles. He's like, but the minute Ethan carries little Debbie in the air, all is forgiven. it's like, but again, it's like he didn't take a side. Even in making the picture, he didn't take a side. And that's so special, dude. Like that's really rare. Again, that's the cinema I love the most. Is like, here's the info, kids. You take it, run with it, and make your own interpretation. Because right wing, hardcore, America people, will look something like this and like, fuck yeah, and then we took her back. It was our country, and fuck them. And again, it's a commentary on immigration. It's a commentary on the melting pot that is America. It's again the biggest commentary this is. Any Western, most good Westerns, especially this one, is the country's changing and everybody's fucking afraid of it.
Tell me if I'm wrong. The last scene. Why doesn't he walk in?
The bookend?
Why does he walk away?
Because he had fulfilled what he needed to do.
You don't think?
I also think that's a hero thing. Like, I gotta go keep protecting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't think like I'm gonna stick with my old ways?
Okay.
I think if you look at his character, like constantly, there's this like that'll be the day comment.
That'll be the day.
That'll be the day.
Oh yeah.
And even at the very end, when it's kind of like, oh well, one day you're gonna give up like searching, or one day you're gonna find her, but it's like, well, that'll be the day. Like I think in his character, there's this constant sense of like movement and mission, and it doesn't matter if it's the war or if it's going to change it towards this girl Debbie and finding her, whatever it is, but he's always moving, and I think he has to keep moving, and I think that's I
agree.
I think that's just
that's like the heroes.
That's what they wanted to do, because if you notice, he stayed there just to watch kind of like that get done, but then he's still moving. There's got to be the next thing that he feels like I got to be doing, because
there's a couple things to analyze too. At least I picked up on one of them specifically this time, but one of them is very clear. The film is set up to be, I'm coming back from the war. It's time to kick my feet up. I have much gold, like I'm gonna pay my way here. I'm gonna chill. It's my time to chill. I have family. I can be with my brother and his family, and this is great. I'm gonna fucking chill here. And if what John Ford is saying is true, I'm gonna go see if my kid's all right. I'm gonna finally be a father and maybe come back to my past sins and like own up to that, right? Because based on everything we know about Ethan, he was always a renegade. He was always like the dude, whether he was in his town or like even the Reverend / Captain, Reverend Captain Samuel. Basically, he was like, "Oh, we haven't seen you since the surrender." Right, since the,
and he's like, "What surrender?
What surrender? Like, no, but nobody surrendered."
No,
yet.
and then even like when he's like, "Okay,
he's on it. He's still fighting."
And then even when they say like, "Oh, put your hand up. You got to take an oath," and he's like, "Oh, I already took an oath. Like, I'm not gonna do that again." And it's like, "Oh, like," and then there's this question of like, "Well, are you a wanted man?" And he's like, "Oh, well, who's asking? Like, have you seen me?" He's like, "Oh, well, you fit a lot of descriptions." He's like, "Well, we all do things."
It's also a sense of mystery, right? Which is great to do in westerns and samurai films, and But what I wanted to point out too is that in that attempt to just be a normal dude, to come home and as they say, sit under the olive tree, they fucking burn his house down, man. They burn his family alive. They murder his family and kidnap the remaining family.
Yeah, so it starts.
And the guy that he has to save people with is the guy that he doesn't like on his basic principles, and the one that's literally not connected to him in any blood fashion, right? So like, he tried to be normal. He tried to just go home and chill, and they fucking killed his family.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? That's something that we're like, yo, he was attempting to like, all right, it's my time to rest, and no, fucker, you can't. The universe had other plans. The other thing I pick up on too, and it reminded me right now when you say that, I was like, the title, right? He was constantly on the search for this righteous ending.
5 years, like the fact that like It's such an interesting way that they move time because, I mean, it almost felt like they went to a different region when it would be like a dry desert heat and then it's snowing and then it would be like nights when it's like, oh, but it's going to get really cold. And like only in the dialogue, you're able to hear the time passing. Yeah. But, oh my God, it just shows that this guy was like, no, just nonstop for 5 years. Like, I'm just going to keep searching, getting clues. Yeah. And then even like when they're like coming back home, kind of like, well, all hope's lost. It's like, oh, we heard somebody who might have a detail. And then they go to him, get the next clue, and then start going out. And that's all they do.
And that's this 5-year stretch.
Yeah.
But before that, he was seeking for the righteousness of America.
Yeah.
Right? He was fighting a war. And before that, he was a man of the law in his hometown. Yeah. Again, he was on the constant search to do the right thing. He was constantly searching for the ability to be able to finally do the right thing. And again, not only because it's his niece, but if it's his daughter and he knows that, this is like that final mission. This is like, fuck it, I need to find her. This is it. And then that last shot, he has nothing to search for anymore.
Or he wants to keep searching. That's why
or he wants to keep searching. I take it like he found the meaning. He saved his kid. He saved the
walk in?
He saved the only attempt.
But like you said, instead of walking in,
but there's a very big difference in the way you would look at a hero.
Like
the last shot of
he didn't walk off.
But he said that you wanted to kick his feet out. Like he wanted to try, but they burned his house down.
But again, there's a very different image we would all get if the hero at the very end sits down on a chair and closes his eyes, or is gonna keep walking, and we don't see him like rest. I feel like, again, he's the guy who's been at this mission. He has such tenacity of doing the right thing, whatever that thing is that he truly believes in. I just don't think that it's in his character, even at the very end, to sit down. Yeah, he's
not sit down, but
you know what?
Go in with what he wanted.
He didn't. No, he didn't strut. Okay, he may have been walking out, but he didn't strut. I think he's protecting.
He's what?
Protecting. He's protecting what he just saved. He's not gonna sit on his laurels because he still has to be out there protecting.
He technically, the guy who kidnapped his daughter and was on this big mission is dead, but I mean, it's not like
that's not the end of it.
Yeah,
somebody will take his place and continue this fucking thing. So I think he's always gonna be in this scenario. He doesn't have to search the world. He's found his reason for living, but now he has to protect it.
Yeah,
that's a good.
He's on watch. That's also his military brain, right? He's going to be constantly on watch.
Yeah, he's always been that guy.
I also think that I really like this just for what we've been talking about. This character that is neither good nor bad, because anytime, like I'm serious, anytime you want to side with him and look at him like John Wayne, that's this good guy and all that kind of stuff.
He proves you wrong.
Yeah, no, he's an ass, and then you're just like, and anytime he does like something wrong, like there's almost a sense of sympathy. Like you see this guy broken up by his morals and everything, that he's just trying to do what's right. Like I feel like the time I feel for his character the most is when he goes down a canyon and then he comes back and gets off his horse really quick and sits down, and he's just he's just kind of like cleaning his knife in the sand, and they're like, oh, so what'd you see? And he's like, nothing, anyway, let's just keep going. But then it comes out like, oh, she was there, and like I'm not getting into it, and you don't ask me.
And also, like when you come back from war, you're so fucking numb to the sight of death and that type of thing. And this is his family, right? So like he saw his dead niece in the canyon, who's the wife of the guy who's currently riding with him, right? At least in the beginning. And then I want to touch on that part that you said again with Martin's character, like wanting to go see his aunt who basically raised him, right? And he's like, no. Like, you shouldn't. It'll fuck you up. Look at what happened when he killed his first person. Look how Martin reacted. Martin was like almost crying, shit, like I didn't want to do that, and I'm 1/8 them too, so what does that make me? And he went through this constant internal battle of like, shit, I shouldn't have done that. Imagine what would have happened to him if he went to go see his dead aunt fucking killed by Indians.
It would have desensitized him and made him into
a harder person. And remember, also that's what I love about Ethan's character too, when it comes to that middle kind of portion, that second act of like going to the what was the character's name? Is it Miss Jorgensen or the girl he ends up with? Who is it? Lucy? Maybe it's Lucy.
Oh, the other girl. Yeah.
Yeah, the girl he ends up with, the girl Martin ends up with.
Yeah.
Right. He basically said, "Hey, you got a good thing here. This girl fucking loves you.
Yeah.
I'm going to abandon you because you got a good setup here. You shouldn't be out chasing what I'm doing. You got to have a chance at a good life here. Like, I'm going to force that on you because it'll be good for you in the end. I'll go do what I got to do, and if I die, I die, you know. But he didn't want that for Martin. He still liked the kid. He still saw him as an extension of family to an, you know. I think that's where he started like caring for him. Yeah. Because if he didn't care for him, he's like, all right, come on, kid, come be my fucking guinea pig, or like when he used them as bait with the guy who, like, you know, like that. There, he didn't give a shit.
Exactly.
But once you get to the like, oh, okay, this kid could have a chance at a good life. I'm gonna try giving him that. I missed
that. That is true.
You know, and then I'm gonna go off, and you know, the kid and his well-being again. He's like, well, fuck no. What do you mean? Like, that's my sister. That's who I consider my sister. I got to go after that. I think
just to round back the conversation a little bit. I think we're about halfway through the episode or so.
I mean, we're about 40 minutes in.
Yeah.
We should get to ratings.
I was gonna say. I think the conversation we always have.
It has been brought to our attention that we haven't been getting into ratings at the top of the episode, and we apologize for that.
We just get too much into the conversation.
Also, I feel like a lot of the conversation is that we have shifted our focus from being, at least personally, I feel. We want to talk about the film in its entirety and the merit, and our ratings, because they're this little subjective piece, sometimes it doesn't always fuel the rest of the conversation. But what I would like to say is, should we do the format that we've done with other genres, where give a rating for the genre and a rating as a film? And I'm going to advocate for the rating as a genre only because we're going to cover 4 different ones. So how much do they lean into the genre? What are they doing? I would like to do that kind of rating system, or would you guys just want to go based off of film? I feel like...
Man, I don't... And again, you guys know this, or at least...
Graded as a Western.
Yeah, I wouldn't...
Yeah, no, I think Westerns are just, like... It's not like a comedy.
Yeah,
like,
but
I know what he's saying, though. I know, like, because there's a formula for a Western, right? Almost like, is it hitting all the beats that a Western should have? But... I don't know enough about the Western genre to dictate whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Because with comedies, there's a blatant difference, right? This is either funny or it's not. Like, it's not like we can say, well, this is either a Western or it isn't. I don't know.
Would you want to give it 2 ratings? I mean, because I feel like there's...
If you want to, I don't think we need to. I think just like cinematically, if this works or not.
It's cinema. We know it's cinema.
Yeah, I feel like...
But if you feel like we should this is why I picked this film, and this is why I picked it to introduce this month, because this is one of the most important, if not the most important Western in the history of cinema. Not just by my account, but like any one of your favorite filmmakers has been influenced by this film. And not just because it's a Western, but because it's cinema, right? But at the same time, I understand kind of like your plea for it.
Yeah.
I just feel like the Searcher sets it up so that we have the more contemporary Westerns.
Which are trying to break the model.
I think they are. I really do think they break the model. Yeah, because we're going
to do Ballad of Buster later on.
Even There Will Be Blood, right? Or like if we don't decide to do There Will Be Blood, but
True Grit, probably.
True Grit. I don't know. They do feel like, I don't know. True Grit follows the Western model a little more.
Okay. I guess really quick, and then we'll get into ratings and just rating as a film. Do you think that there'd be like a bad Western? Do you feel like there'd be something?
Absolutely.
Okay. Like I think Days to Die in the West?
That's a comedy. Right? I wouldn't call it a Western as much as I would call it a comedy.
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
That's a good Western.
You don't?
Oh, no, baby.
No, yes, baby.
Oh, man. Okay, look, here's the weird thing, too. Is like a lot of people don't realize that.
The Hokey Pokey?
There are bad Westerns.
The original Magnificent Seven.
That one's better. What are you talking about?
I'm just talking shit.
That one's way better than the new one.
The ones that I know.
That was fun.
The new one? It was fun. Exactly. It was fun.
Yeah.
I think John Ford directed the old one, too, by the way.
Oh,
I think he directed the new one as well.
No.
Training Day guy did it.
Antoine Fuqua.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Farquaad?
Isn't that his name? Fuqua? Maybe it's Fuqua. Antoine Fuqua? I think it might be Fuqua.
I know he has a name like that.
I know he has a name. I don't want to get into it too much. So I'm not trying to bore you guys, but like there is a huge difference, believe it or not, between classic Westerns, classic American Westerns and spaghetti Westerns. Spaghetti Westerns were solely, fully inspired by American Westerns, but they used 1960s and 70s film techniques to tell a story. So by that definition, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly was kind of better. I mean,
I'm just bullshitting you.
no,
That's the only
but
one I know fuck things
I
with.
just mean in the sense that they use these camera techniques where Italians, they like peaked early, man. 1940s and 50s Italian neorealism and Federico Fellini and Bertolucci and fucking
But then we stole all their shit.
Well, yeah, we stole all their shit. Exactly. Then American cinema starts changing,
Yeah.
and we start getting more experimental. And we start getting more fucking in our brains about it. And then the Italians were like, "Well, we're gonna make some westerns. Fuck you guys. Like, we'll make that better." And then they do. That's exactly what was happening in cinema at the time. So like, there is a difference.
Yeah.
And westerns do start changing. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a formula to kind of pin it on. You know?
Yeah.
Because we're doing such
Well,
a
it's
wide
'cause-
range of westerns.
I
That's
mean,
why.
maybe, I promise I'll make this as compact as possible.
I would doubt that.
We're at 40 minutes.
No, this topic, so we can keep talking about the movie. But like, if we were going to do a rating for, let's say, like scary movies, right?
Uh huh.
With that, and I guess it falls closer
That's
to
the
like,
problem. Because based on what you're saying, scary and funny. Something is either scary or it isn't, and
Okay.
something is either funny or it isn't. But
What
something
about a
can-
romantic movie?
Again, it can be romantic or not. That's
But
why
it's all-
exactly.
No, I feel like that one's harder.
Yes,
because,
it is. Because when we get to romantic, like you can't say what. That's how I feel about westerns.
Okay, fine.
You
I-
can't say that's western. You know what I mean? Like the way you say that's funny.
Cowboy.
Yeah,
Western.
exactly.
Okay,
Like,
you
I
know
don't
what
feel
think it
like
is?
you can,
okay, I think
pigeonhole it that way a
I
little
think I
bit.
know how to define it. I think whenever we change the rating for a genre or not, it's because intrinsically built into the genre is a goal. If it's a scary
Okay.
movie, it has to be scary. If it's a comedy, it has to be funny.
So what's the western goal?
Yeah.
And then I think when we talk about the broader branches of cinema and we talk about these genres don't have a goal. They more have an influence that they're trying to follow. Be it the genre details that it needs to follow or the genre tropes. But as long as they're encapsulating it, they can do anything else. And then we're just watching different movies with
I'll
different
go there
flavors.
with you. I'll go there with you.
So
Until we watch the rest of the films, because I'm down to give a western rating, quote unquote.
that's just to justify that I don't
Yeah.
think we should.
Oh,
But now I feel
so
like
we're all arguing on the same side.
No. Now I feel like I have a definable basis moving forward that if a genre has a built-in goal, we need to give a
Correct.
rating for that genre.
Correct.
But if it
Okay.
doesn't
And
have
I
a built-in
think,
goal,
I think westerns were just using genre as a tool, which I think is the way you should use genre.
yes, that's that genre.
And as opposed to comedies or horror films, they have a goal. They're not using it as a tool. They have an endpoint. I
Yeah.
think westerns are trying to tell a grand
Yeah.
story.
I think
I
like,
think westerns are the original epics, if you will, and and you can't define an epic by the sake of being an epic, right?
but we defined epics by being a story that spans over multiple years and in some cases like a lifetime.
Right.
But in this one, I mean, it is
It is
covering
multiple years,
a
yeah.
large course. Yeah, the growing of people and all that. But I will say that in other genres like a romance or in a
The goal is to fall in love or not. Or
no,
whatever,
but that's not
No.
that's not a goal
Yeah.
for the genre because it's not making you feel something.
Yeah.
All it is that they follow tropes like the Western. It follows certain tropes.
Sure.
Needs to be set in the American Southwest. Needs to be set in like the early or late 1800s, early 1900s, and you need to see a horse. As long as you have those things, it's a Western.
You're not wrong. The problem is if we stick by that criteria, the next 3 films we're going to cover don't meet that criteria.
Yeah, we do.
There Will Be Blood does.
Yeah, there's a horse.
We're not covering There Will Be Blood this month.
Okay.
True Grit.
What are we
True
covering?
Grit. True Grit.
Okay, horse.
No, True Grit does. True Grit does. That's why I
The
said
West.
earlier that True Grit
Okay,
does.
so what are we missing?
Well, Hell or High Water doesn't really cover those. That
Yeah, that
criteria.
one.
Horse.
There's no
Nah,
horse.
brother, come on.
It's a metaphorical
Oh,
horse.
the car is a metaphorical horse.
Get outta here, bro. It's got horsepower.
Dude,
But
there will be. I mean,
No,
I'm sorry.
just saying,
I'm sorry.
there's certain-
Hell or High Water is like Bonnie and Clyde meets the Searchers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a very interesting. And that's why it's so fucking good. That's why it's so interesting, and that's why our brain is programmed to be like, that's a modern western. You know.
Yeah, I'll just say that. Well, let's move forward now.
to the north.
John Ford.
Yeah.
With the ratings for the Searchers. Carlos, this is your pick. Please say who you want to go first. Also, because we've talked for a while, rapid fire ratings is my suggestion.
Okay. Mans.
My man's.
Moi?
I feel like your dad has a lot to say about westerns. Most dads probably do.
They're really opinionated
Not
and
really.
they're
My
kind of
dad's-
sweaty when they do say
My
it.
dad's more into like history and like war films.
What do you think this is
with my dad.
about?
Okay.
I think the most Western thing that my dad really got into was Lonesome Dove.
Lonesome Dove?
Yeah, it was like a
What is that?
It was like a mini series of like 6 or 7
Episodes?
films. Yeah, episodes.
Oh, film.
Films. Yeah, because they were like 2-hour things.
I don't know what that is. Lonesome
neither.
Dove.
Lonesome.
Sounds like
I've been
dim
in
sum.
Lonesome Dove.
It's a song. Lonesome.
Not lonesome anymore, are you? It does sound like a Western thing.
Oh, get out of here.
Is that Tommy
Is
Lee
that
Jones?
Kenny Rogers?
That's Kenny Rogers.
I like how
Tommy
we
Lee.
both.
Tommy Lee.
I said
Oh,
Tommy Lee
Robert
Jones.
Duvall. Danny
where's
Glover?
Kenny Rogers?
Who's
Diane
Kenny
Lane?
Rogers? The singer?
Who? No, Kenny Rogers doesn't come out.
Who the fuck is Kenny Rogers?
Look up Kenny
You don't
Rogers
care?
real quick.
From 40-Year-Old Virgin. The one that they keep replaying.
No, oh my god, I don't know why you're saying
That's
that.
not. Oh wait, no.
He's a singer.
In 40-Year-Old Virgin, it's Michael.
Bublé?
No, Michael something.
No,
Anyways.
go back to
Anyways.
that first photo because he looks exactly like Kenny Rogers. There you go. See,
It's Tommy Lee Jones.
That's Tommy Lee Jones, brother.
I know, but like if you look up Kenny Rogers and that,
But anyways, that's probably the most Western
Michael
thing.
McDowell? I think it's Michael McDowell.
you mean Michael McDonald?
Michael McDonald. Michael McDonald. Is it Michael McDonald?
It's Kenny Rogers, bro.
Yes, Michael McDonald. Michael
What's
McDonald.
the 40-Year-Old Virgin song? Sorry.
It's like Michael McDonald, 40-Year-Old Virgin. I guarantee it's Michael McDonald.
No, because I remember like, Kenny
What a
Rogers?
fool believes. I love that song.
Yeah, you see? Michael McDonald.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Anyways,
Anyway,
okay,
yeah,
I don't know this. I mean, it's a miniseries.
Yeah, 4
Diane
episodes.
Lane.
It's
Danny
got a whole
Glover.
bunch of people.
From
But that's probably the most
Chris
Western
Cooper?
thing I ever saw my dad watch or get into. Like he owns like a box set of it.
oh
Okay.
really?
Yeah.
By the way, that's an interesting kind of thing, right? That's why I
The
think
box
that
set?
if there's any through line, no, it's any through line
Okay.
of American westerns,
It's
it's
the box set.
changed. Because I do see like Austin's point in picking Hell or High Water or something like that. Because like I look at the show the with 1920s and the Prohibition era. The gangsters. Geez, what is it called? My gosh,
The gangsters?
the guy from Reservoir Dogs.
Longmire?
No,
The like guy that
something
comes
with a
out.
D. Starts with a D.
Detroit Rock City?
Just put the Scorsese series. Jeez, it's like 3 seasons or whatever. Oh my gosh.
You're really milking out ratings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, it's a series. It's from a
Was it Theodore Roosevelt?
no. It's
The last movie star was a series?
Lieutenant of City.
something with a D.
Final,
The Hugo?
American Master.
Put Marty Scorsese.
Just put like
Series.
Prohibition series. They're just like
Arena?
no. He was the executive producer. Whatever. No, I think you missed it already. Just Google what I'm telling you. Like just Prohibition series.
For all the audience just listening to this in
And the audience
Spotify.
is yelling at me because I'm sure they know what it is. Boardwalk Empire. I don't know why I thought D. Boardwalk Empire.
Oh,
Boardwalk
dude, why
Empire.
did you say Desperado? The fucking what is his name?
Exactly. I can't believe we're like skipping his name, but Boardwalk Empire, man. Like Boardwalk Empire to me it can be deemed as like a weird like Western.
Oh yeah.
No, but I feel like you're just saying it like in the sense of like, again, Western, I think there's certain tropes it needs to follow.
Yeah. No, okay. Now I'm trying to understand what he's saying.
But I don't know. I hate things that follow tropes to begin with, dude. So like I'm the wrong person to ask with that.
then what's the point of genre? If it's like I think genre just means that there's certain things that as long as they're followed, certain parameters.
But then how High Water wouldn't?
No,
Exactly.
it has one of the parameters. Let's say the parameters change, right?
No, but I think
then
that's why Boardwalk
It
Empire
feels
falls
like
into
a
the
modern
criteria.
Western.
Yes, that's what I just said.
No, but I don't
Yeah,
think
but
modern
you don't
West. I think we just stick with westerns. Westerns where it's like it's back in the day.
At the end of the deal, Manifest Destiny, right? New Frontiers. That's what Westerns are really
Right.
covering. That's the common
New
thread
Frontiers.
between Westerns, New Frontiers. So,
Yeah.
like, I don't want to say that for every era, but definitely in the 1800s to 1900s factor. We get into 1920s, Boardwalk Empire, Prohibition, the country's changing, there's war, the Great Depression.
Boardwalk
It's that
Empire
new
would be
front. That's me. That's just like anytime I.
Prohibition, but
I mean,
no,
at that
no,
point,
I'm
you
more-
would
I'm more
consider
with the-
Gangs of New York a Western, neo-Western.
Nah,
Doesn't
see, I
it feel the
wouldn't, I
country's
wouldn't.
changing
No,
the
nah,
politics?
nah.
We're going from savages to sophisticated country.
I would define Western as, like you just said, 1800s into the 19 probably, but it has to be.
That's fair.
Like.
Whatever ratings.
Once you start putting cards into it, no, it's not a Western.
Rapid fire.
Just 1 or 2.
One. Right?
Yeah, 1 rating.
I'll give it an 8.8.
8.8.
8.8.
Yeah.
Nice. Any quick kind of justifications of that?
I think I mentioned it earlier that you just see a lot of modern techniques used back then.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
you could see that there was a lot of inspiration even from a film made in the 50s. And
Or kind of like I was saying earlier with that like push zoom that you see all the time now in Spielberg's work.
yeah.
And you could tell they were experimenting, right? Because I like freaked out when the camera moved.
When it passed.
Yeah,
It
me
moved.
too,
It
'cause the
panned
first couple of
once.
scenes, I was like-
it panned in the landscape shots.
Yeah, right,
but from person to person, and then there was a rack. Dude, that was like I feel like I felt how the audience was feeling when they first watched it. Well, the camera moved. The camera can move.
Holy shit.
You know,
What got me a
do that.
lot, dude, and I think it's a big deal in Westerns, is framing.
framing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like not only horizon shots, but even inside the buildings, like there was some where like towards
Frame
the
within
end
a frame,
Yeah, frame within
or-
a frame, stuff like that. So
I like
John
that.
Ford, man. John
Yeah.
Ford, I think, set this up for cinema. I really do.
like it's crazy to think that there's so many things that you could get from this film and it being a Western from the 50s. Because when you think Westerns, you think, oh, it's just cowboys versus Indians, shootout in the
Right.
frontier, but you do pick up a lot of cinematic things from
Yeah,
this. That's why it's a little, it's high.
Yeah.
The story's decent. But yeah, that was my thing. 8.8.
Me? Damn, I'm going to go a little bit lower than that. This is my first time watching it. I'll give it a 7.8.
Okay.
Show your work.
Yeah, no, I found John Wayne's character, Ethan, a very complex character.
Yeah.
I like the whole anti-hero, maybe he's a hero aspect of it. I like the cinematography, right? The whole landscaping, the horizon, everything. Story was okay, but yeah, I'll give it a 7.8. Just 'cause from listening to you guys, yeah, there's a couple of little things, tricks that they learned that we use nowadays, but yeah, I mean, just
Didn't do much for you.
yeah, I mean, there you go. His character was so complex.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I have to live with it a little bit more because it's
That's fair.
yeah.
I like that answer. Mr. DeLo.
I'm gonna go even lower. And give it
'cause
about
we saw it maybe-
9.3.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was fantastic in every possible way. If anything, I feel like the only reason it's getting a lower rating than I think it probably deserves is the fact that I think people were able to use these techniques and they've improved upon them.
Yeah.
And we're gonna see more neo westerns where I think again they're taking a lot of reference from like films like these, and then they're saying how else can we reinvent the wheel to advance cinema. I'm not saying that this isn't. I'm just saying that I think that there's more that was explored. But oh my God, on a cinematography front, which we haven't had a chance to really dive in on, this is the kind of stuff that I would say is the most out of all the films we've watched recently. This is one of the most I've been inspired by the cinematography and wanting to incorporate it into my own work and wanting to explore each shot. And not just for composition. Lately, I've been in a big lighting kick, and I've been in a big kind of like wanting to explore the way lighting influences the screen. And,
Nice.
and one of my own goals when it comes to being a cinematographer is to find this beautiful balance between cinematic lighting that is meant to represent the realism of the world and meant to make you feel like the world that the characters living in is a living, breathing world, while also incorporating the theater elements of lighting, which is a lot of color and a lot of painting the scenery. And anytime I saw these characters lit up, it's just gorgeous. Like, I mean, there's something about today's modern cinematography that
It's synthesized. It feels synthesized.
it feels too perfect and too good. I mean, right now we're looking at a shot from like a poster from our last film, and I think the hard thing to get around is that a lot of young filmmakers, they just want everything to look prettier and they want it to look softer, so you're constantly looking at large scale diffusions. How do we make the lighting look even better? And it's hard to get this kind of where there's a grit to it that feels authentic, yet it still has that integrity and the beauty. And I loved, again, back in the 50s when it came out.
Yeah.
A lot of the lighting techniques really came from like theater lighting. So it's a lot of using gels to like have very warm, colorful background. Using a lot of like blue gels when like they're inside or it's a candlelit thing. But those colors, I mean, that's why I love theater lighting. It just brings so much tonality to things where even without the music, there's a subconscious feeling of like warmth or danger or like like care, even in like the bonfire scenes that are very, very well lit.
Well, I was gonna say that there was a couple of scenes at night that they were dark as hell. Did that work for you? Does that work?
Yes, absolutely.
You couldn't see their faces, or there was one scene where it just looked.
Yes, like the ambush scene, right? They killed that guy who they sold the gold from, right?
Right.
A lot of that, I mean, think about it. Like, if they wanted to light the scene well, kind of like towards the end of the movie when it was all very evenly lit, but it's supposed to be like nighttime, where they're like, once we hit morning, that's when we attack. Like, that was lit fairly well. You could see everybody was in frame. But then when they're sleeping together, this sense of like
vulnerability,
we got a lead, we don't know what it's going to get us. Even the whole conversation beforehand where they're saying like, here's a few coins just because you told me the story. And it's like, oh, what about the rest of them? And it's like, I'll give you the rest when we find her and she's alive. And we don't know that, so that's why I'm not paying you. So they get a tip, and then John Wayne's character recognizes that, hey, we gave a tip to this guy, but he's just a greedy dude. He's not here to help us. He's not here to be of any use other than like he just wants to get money out of it. And he could tell something was wrong, so that's why he like left his stuff. And at first you think like, oh, he just left his stuff there to maybe trick the kid so he could leave, but doesn't go to the horses, goes around a bush because he knows the guy was going to come later on. Yeah. And that's the whole time it's dark. It's like very intentional. It's just kind of like just people are after you from all sides. They don't even have to be Indians. They're just people who are greedy, people who just want to like take your vulnerability and your lowest moment where you're just trying to find your niece, or in this case, John Wayne's possible daughter, and they're just trying to get money out of you. So, I mean, like, again, all these moments are lit and filmed to really represent what's going on and have this very subconscious way of implanting emotion into a scene. It's beautiful, gorgeous.
Beautiful.
It's like I said, it's the first time in a while that I've watched a film that I want to go back and pause every scene and really break down.
Especially those morning scenes.
Yeah, break down what they're doing. I mean, I fell in love with all the evening shots where you could tell it was artificially lit.
Yeah.
The stage lighting. But then again, it blends with the color of the background, and we're seeing the sunset in the horizon, but we're also seeing the warmth on the characters' faces. Yeah. And then they had this wonderful division that once they go inside, it's cooler because, again, being inside, this home doesn't really feel like a home because you know that Wayne's character's leaving, and the girl who says, oh, this man that I love and I've given my love to for years, he's also leaving. So then the home doesn't even feel warm. It feels cool and sad. And then on the outside, it's warm, but it's hot and it's grueling and it's hitting him. It's stuff we don't see that much in contemporary cinematography because I think at least young filmmakers are more obsessed with getting a photo that looks pretty than they are obsessed about
the intention,
taking a risk as far as saying, how is this going to affect the feeling? And I love it. I mean, I'm saying 9.3, but as you can tell,
that's a good take.
It'll easily shoot up. Carlos, I am sorry for
No, give me time. It gave me time to kind of analyze what you're saying. I mean, cinematography, this film is a staple for cinematography and cinema. And
before you guys go on, I love how you guys, because I'm starting to appreciate it, but you guys still appreciate that it's 1958. Whereas with me, I'm like, compared to now, but you guys are like, bro.
No, I'm out of it because we're losing this.
Huh?
We're losing this.
Exactly.
We're losing this.
I love that. I love
that. We're trying to preserve the intentionality behind cinema.
Because I just saw it, and I was just like, yeah, that looks nice, but
and like because you're a very technical person, because you're very technical in tech, and don't get me wrong, and that's not that I don't think that really translates in your performance. Sometimes you're technical in performances, other times you're more emotional. But when it comes to behind the camera, you're very techie. Like genuinely, how do we advance technology to make
Yeah.
it better, to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
it
yeah.
look better? Oh, it's 6K. How can I get to 8K? Like that's how you process, and that's not bad. That moves forward the technology of cinema so that we have more tools at our disposal. But we're losing something. You know, we're losing something
Just from
because
hearing you, that
filmmakers
was amazing.
filmmakers
Yeah.
don't give a shit anymore, man. And like again, what I love about John Ford is that he wasn't afraid to go back down into the trenches.
Right.
You know, this was his first Western.
The Searchers?
Yeah, he had. I think he correct. I think he had done Stagecoach. Maybe he did one more before this. But just go to his
Yeah, I don't think
filmography.
this was his first one.
But
Ford, right?
Ford. So John Ford won 4 Oscars for Best Directing,
4 Oscars, nice.
and he still holds that record. There's no director in the history of cinema. There's one more.
No.
Google it.
Who's close?
Spielberg, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe Hitchcock. Yeah. John
So
Ford.
Hitchcock still has a chance.
Yeah, maybe. John Ford has the most directing Oscars to my knowledge. He still holds the record. And
Nice.
Frank Capra and William Wyler have each received 3.
yeah, so
William
so
Wyler.
John Ford is still the most, right? 4.
He's a Tom Brady.
Really?
Yeah, he's there's no directors who have won more directing Oscars
Oh
than
my
John
God.
Ford.
Del Toro, Spielberg.
Nobody.
Spielberg, I would have
Spielberg
thought,
probably
but,
has 2.
Yeah, because
Right, he probably has
But
like what
again,
Saving
for
Private
Best Directing,
Ryan. Yeah, for best directing.
Okay.
For best directing, yeah, not for being nominated for anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ford.
Yeah.
Frank Capra.
Frank Capra, man, he did It's a Wonderful Life. He did.
Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, Clint Eastwood.
For
He's got
directing.
2.
For directing.
Cuarón's got 2. Spielberg has 2.
Carito.
Iñárritu has 2. You know, Marty only has 1.
Yeah.
But even Billy Wilder only has 2.
Billy Wilder only has
Elia
2.
Kazan only has 2, man. Fucking Elia Kazan.
Oliver Stone.
Wait, what's the
William Wyler.
column on the right?
3 or more nominations. Scorsese is 10.
10.
William Wyler had 12.
That's got to say
that's
something,
good.
Scorsese
right?
will probably surpass that
That's just
in his
as good,
lifetime. He's
man.
got 3 more films in him, I think.
Just being mentioned. Hell yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Well, anyways, the point I'm trying to make with that is that
Hold on, is
for the Oscars that
there? No? Okay.
for the Oscars that John Ford won, he never won Best Directing for a Western.
That's what he was known for.
Right?
weird.
Doesn't that blow your mind?
That is
and,
weird.
And the reason
Marty holds the record for oldest nomination.
oldest nominee right now. Well, yeah,
Oldest
no
nominee,
shit.
yeah.
I mean, he's-
81.
Why? What do you mean? Fucking Clint Eastwood's older than Marty.
No, he's
Damien
not.
Chazelle for
Damn,
La
man,
La
he
Land?
looks old. Clint Eastwood looks done, bro.
Looks-
Marty,
yeah.
there's something about being Italian, you
Yeah,
know?
he looks done.
No, but this is like at the time of the nomination.
Okay, okay. Well, just
Oh.
click on Eastwood. Click on Eastwood.
Yeah, he's how old is he now? He's like 90 something. Bullshit, right?
No, but
Go
what
down,
was the
go down.
last film that Eastwood
No, but
got
okay,
nominated
but-
for?
I don't know. Probably The Mule.
Let me see. Go
I
down,
don't
go down,
know.
go down, go down. Just
No,
to see his
Gran
age.
Torino.
That was the last film he got nominated for.
I think so.
No, it's always on the right. It's always on the
No,
right.
because he got nominated for like Jersey Boys, didn't he?
No.
Hold on.
His age is always on the right.
Wait, gosh, so you're
fucking love
wondering for
Jersey
one
Boys.
thing and we're wondering for another.
No, okay. I just want to see his age.
By the way,
yeah.
quick, we need your rating.
Yeah, your rating.
Well, let me.
Oh, okay, okay.
He's,
Okay.
he's 94.
Fine. Can I? Do you want me to
94, okay,
kill time
he
by
looks
saying my
94.
favorite scene in this movie?
No. We'll get there. We'll get there. But the reason I wanted to point out the best directing factor is that I think westerns at the time were.
Eastwood's last nominee for Best Director was in 05 with $1 Million Baby.
He didn't get nominated for fucking American Sniper.
I mean, he got nominated for Best Picture, but that was it.
Wow.
Wait, what about Gran Torino?
That was like
no.
04.
Letters from Iwo Jima, he got nominated for
Spielberg
Way
produced
you
that.
like
But
Gran
that
Torino.
was 07, that was what?
I loved Gran Torino.
14,
I
15
actually
years ago?
do.
Oh no, you know what? I'm thinking of the mule. Yeah, my
Oh,
bad,
yeah.
my bad.
Well, regardless, it was 14, 15 years ago.
Got it. The point I'm trying to make with the directing thing is that I feel like westerns are the 1950s version of like superhero movies.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Whoa,
a
whoa,
hokey
whoa, whoa,
pokey
whoa.
kind of thing.
Well, not the hokey pokey as much as it is the popular thing.
Okay.
The popular. If it wasn't a musical, it was a western. That's
Okay.
what was popular in theaters, right?
Right.
So if and if you weren't Hitchcock or you weren't Billy Wilder making like these quirky offbeat comedies or noirs or whatever, you were seeing a western or a musical. So what I love about somebody like John Ford is John Ford was the Spielberg of his time to an extent because he was going to get the popular genre and make a film. And I think when a director can do that, that's why I honor guys like Spielberg and Nolan who can take something that he knows is going to sell or like James Cameron, something he knows is going to sell tickets and fucking break box office records, but he's gonna make a film.
Exactly.
Right? He's gonna package it in this, epic kind of marketing, kind of epic story structure, but he's gonna make a very internal, complex, layered film.
Like Zack Schneider and Watch.
Oh no!
You really don't like Zack Snyder's director's
Watchmen?
cut?
I just don't like Zack Snyder. Period.
What
but
about Watchmen?
The Watchmen's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I love the Watchmen, dude. Come
That's
on.
cool.
Oh, the first
I like
one.
it. I don't think it's cinema. But I like it. I don't think it's cinema. It's
I
cool.
watched it
It's a
recently
cool
and
film.
I thought it did a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah, dude.
Maybe I need to rewatch it. I also haven't watched it in like 10
I also
years.
think I'm talking like Zack Schneider when he was developing that style. Not when right now he's just like.
Yeah.
What'd you
I kinda
say-
like 300.
What did Castro say about Wes Anderson? It's just Zack
jerking
Snyder
off.
jerking off on
In front of a mirror.
Yeah.
That being said, because I feel like John Ford did that almost effortlessly,
Jerk
because
off
he
in a
didn't care about form, and that's what I love about him. Like he was like, all right, did well in this kind of format. Gonna go back down in the trenches.
too good at
Let me see
westerns.
what I can do with a western. Let me see how well I can do
love
that. By the way, we didn't even go into that, did we?
What?
John Ford and what film he did before, like western
did
wise. But
Because we got
Go all the way down? Go all the way down?
pictures in 50s.
Oh, see, so, but that's
before that, I feel like he did Stagecoach. Oh, he did Rio Grande. Never mind. Rio Grande was a western.
Grande.
Wagon Master. Fort Apache.
Fort
Yeah,
Apache,
they all sound
yeah.
like westerns. Yeah,
I mean, the posters alone look like Western.
so yeah.
most of them.
He had
most of them. Oh, Grapes of Wrath. Well, Grapes of Wrath.
Battle
was
of
a-
Midway.
Yeah, Stagecoach.
Stage. He did do Stagecoach. Okay. Well, point is,
39. Goddamn.
like he knew how to go down
Yeah, I know.
and
Damn.
be a chameleon, man. He wasn't.
Where did he start? When did he start? He did the Great Train Ride, probably.
1917, he did a short.
It was his first feature.
A short.
Straight shooting.
Oh, look, a bunch of shorts, just like a.
Straight shooting in 1917.
You know, my first time was straight shooting.
And he directed all the way until 76.
170, 147.
I think I read somewhere he did like 60 some westerns.
Yeah.
60.
That's what he became known for,
Right,
right?
right.
But he really was a chameleon. He was like Spielberg in that sense that he could do anything.
Anything.
But he could do it on a grand scale and like reconstruct the form. And like if you think about it, any Western after 1956, it's in the formula of the Searchers.
Really?
That's what tropes are, right?
Yeah.
That's where you start seeing tropes. Is like, dude, the Searchers was so fucking good. Let's try to make something like that.
Yeah,
and
and
then
again,
they
you're-
fucking ruin it. But
Well, again, it's the whole idea that as long as you follow these tropes
Yeah.
to encapsulate the genre, after that, then it becomes an interesting exploration of like what else can you do in that medium.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
all
So
that
with
being said, I'm at a 9.5.
9.5.
I think the Searchers is this great. I hadn't seen it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you get introduced to it?
I didn't see it in its entirety for a long time. Like I would watch it on TCM and I'd catch bits and pieces of it. And like if you study enough cinema history, you get the ruin and the ending ruined for you. So
Yeah.
like I knew what was gonna happen to an extent. So I kind of just knew. And again, I had seen enough pieces where I could kind of put it together. But this was my first time seeing it through.
my God, yeah.
So
Same
so
here.
again, it's a great feeling when The Searchers is mentioned in everybody's favorite films, everybody's top 10s. I mean, in the Sight and Sound poll, I think this is number 8 or some shit like that.
Really?
It's high up there. The Searchers is high up there. It might not be 8, but I mean, dude, like the reason I was introduced to it like directly is because it's in Scorsese's top 10 favorite films of all time.
That makes sense.
And
Right.
it's in his Sight and Sound poll. It's but Kubrick, Spielberg, all of these guys fucking idolize John Ford.
15.
15 in the Sight and Sound poll. This is critics though, right?
I don't know.
What might be for directors? I feel like for directors it'll probably be higher. You can check greatest films for directors. There you go. And you see it, by the way. Think about Star Wars, right?
Yeah, the burning house shot, it almost looks the exact same.
Yeah.
They kill his uncle. They kill his aunt.
Yeah. Wow.
You know,
Even the whole shot of like, how do we not show the bodies? Well, I know on Star Wars
Yeah.
they did.
Well,
The
yeah, it was a little
skeletons.
different, right, I
No,
guess.
but like, how do we not show the bodies, but make this scene the most unimaginable horrors that anybody can experience with their family? So what do? We're going to show a wide
that's
shot.
low. That's low. I thought it was gonna be
We're
higher.
going to show a wide shot of the house on fire because
Right.
that's already a nightmare. And then you see the character come up and see this. Let's hone in on his reaction.
Yeah.
Then how do we intensify it?
You know
Again, we're not going to show
what
the
I think
body.
is interesting about that
Yeah.
is Spielberg
Yeah.
uses the sense of mystery, uses the don't show factor to
Right.
make it more interesting, to make it more impactful, and then Marty will use the looks
Yeah.
to make it more impactful.
Yeah.
and
Oh,
they got a
shit.
premiere.
And again, so yeah, the wide shot. Then we push in. We're not going to go in the building. We're going to leave it really dark inside for some odd reason, and
No,
then
what do you mean?
we're gonna have the character walk out after seeing whatever's there.
Exactly.
And we're not going to have him say a thing. It's just going to be this inexplicable pain and suffering on his face and expression. But that shot is so iconic. I mean, if you're going to show the devastation of any scene and you want the audience to really connect with it, that's what you're going to show. You're going to show those 4 basic shots, and it's just going to be this mind-blowing thing. But I mean, the Seachers, really put a definition on that, really use these early cinematic techniques to make a strong, everlasting moment in a movie,
Yeah. 72 is kind of low. You're right.
Well, yeah, for the directors, I would have
Yeah,
thought this would have been super high on the directors.
Underneath,
it's number 15 on the critics.
Yeah.
But again, this thing was, even for its time, it was a box office smash. It was very well respected by critics. And then again, you had guys. This was a time in cinema where films weren't widely viewed. They just weren't. There wasn't the technology. There wasn't the facilitation of being able to do
50s,
that.
58.
Yeah, man. I mean, remember we just, we covered the Apu trilogy, and this was 51, 50,
51.
52, 53, and that's where I feel like pure cinema for me, right, takes reign internationally. But Americans were a little ahead of the game of what they wanted to explore in cinema. I'm not saying they were right. I'm just saying they were exploring a little.
Yeah, taking a risk.
Taking risks for what we were used to, right? Or the right filmmakers were taking risks.
Right.
I always put 1969 as the year that changed cinema, but I'm starting to wonder if going back to films like these...
1969?
Yeah.
Why? 2001?
Because that broke the form. That's
2001 was
68. But late 60s was Woodstock and the Summer of Love, and the world was changing, and Vietnam, and the invention of, well, not the invention, but the implementation of TV and putting cameras in Vietnam and being exposed to the world in a real way.
Yeah.
Like, so it was just changing the world, and not only was the world changing, but cinema was changing with it. And cinema was changing on both sides, right? Like, to either not to shelter, but to show true kind of cinema. So I feel like 69 really broke the mold from like Easy Rider, right? And Easy Rider and on. But I'm starting to wonder if films like this take precedent.
Yeah.
Right? Because I feel like they do in foreign cinema. I mean, you really had guys like in Japanese cinema, like Tokyo Story or Akira Kurosawa films. Like, you had them doing something fresh and real, and it wasn't sugarcoating it. It wasn't a 1950s, 1940s musical. It was life in cinema. And then you had the Apu trilogy in the early 50s. So I feel like internationally it was doing that, but American cinema was hodgepodge, post-Hays Code. We got to be safe. We got to be, so like they weren't taking these risks. But like John Ford is kind of a genius because there's nothing inherently violent about this film. Like, it's not gory.
Right.
It's not something you can't show to a kid per se.
That's what I was thinking about.
You know what I mean?
This whole notion of like, when I watch it, it feels a lot worse because maybe I understand the themes and things they're talking about.
But
like,
if you were a kid watching this, you're
No.
like, oh, let's go.
yeah, like,
You know what I
oh
mean?
no, he's still looking
It's a
for
typical
him.
superhero movie.
Yeah,
maybe.
like, oh, and then at the very end, oh, he found him. But then, like, the more we talk about it, even like that
It's
moment
layered.
in the
It's
canyon,
layered,
like, they don't really say what happens, but you get this very subtle inkling that not only was she like murdered, but she was like raped there,
Yeah.
and it was
the sister, the older sister.
yeah, that it was the worst thing you could ever imagine. Where he's like, I don't go there, don't ask about it. I just
Don't ever ask me about
Yeah,
it. By the
and-
way, I would use that scene more than the burning scene. I would use that scene. That scene to
that's
me
your
was more
favorite,
impactful.
No. But I mean, I'm talking about like a surefire method to like encapsulate a moment.
Okay, for cinematography, yes. For cinematography,
Well, you're talking
use
tool.
the fire scene. For performance, use the.
Yeah, the director, you use whatever you want, but I'm going to tell you what I'm talking in a sense of like, because we've had long conversations about coverage, right? And you're this person who says like, I hate coverage. I want to get the movie right. And I'm like, Carlos, why are you talking like
thanks,
that?
DP.
Dude, perfect impression right there.
No, I'm just saying like, coverage, we've talked about that we don't want to just use it like aimlessly, right? Because you could use it aimlessly and then it feels cookie cutter and there's no emotionality in your film. I mean, the last one we used coverage, but in a very intentional way, and I think it really brought up something. But
I love coverage.
Just because we talk about coverage, like for the most part, people think like, oh, you got your wides, your mediums, and your tights. I think there's also rules of coverage when you're capturing moments and scenes.
No, there is, but that's what I mean by the Seachers being this thing that is going to break the mold by using techniques. Yes, it's going to invent. That's a key word. It's a similar feeling I got to when I watched Tokyo Story. When I watched Tokyo Story the first time, I was very kind of underwhelmed. I was like, what's groundbreaking about this film? And then again, it stuck with me for fucking weeks. I'm like, oh, okay. But it wasn't the cinematography that stuck with me. You know why? Because it was made in the 1940s. And those shots were being invented then.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Now we're spoiled and we have runners and cranes movement and, and something that really Orson Welles really implemented in the cinema that changed the form. But we didn't have that then. They didn't have that then. They had a 16 millimeter camera and a tripod. That's why I think even in the Seachers, that whole pan was like, oh shit, that felt exciting, man. Like, you know what I mean? The audience was so. My point with that is that coverage was just being invented even then.
Yeah.
Proper coverage. And then film schools started saying, this is the way to shoot a movie. No, it's not.
The whole idea of coverage is that if you're going from like the early days of even, what's his name? The Trip to the Moon.
Oh, Méliès.
Yeah, if you go to like Méliès, the whole point of like making a film was just you're covering essentially like a theater play, but then you're using movie magic to make it this grander thing. And then later on, I think as they were developing the shots for these moments, then it became this notion of like, we notice that when we use these shots, we feel like a more complete film. When we don't use these shots, we feel like we're missing something.
No, and I'm glad you're pointing that out. I'm glad you're pointing out the theater aspect because I heard an interview recently with Cuarón, Alfonso Cuarón, saying the only thing inherently cinema is editing.
Yeah.
Short of editing, cinema is the combination of all the other art forms.
True.
It is.
Pottery. Basket
I mean,
weaving.
because set design. I mean...
Interpretive dance.
Yes. Choreography.
Synchronized swimming.
No.
You said all the other arts.
But that's a sport.
I mean, it falls into under.
It's an art.
My point is...
The way I do
editing,
it's an art.
Editing is really what it is, right? And you use... How do you use editing? By using coverage or shots to paint the picture, right?
Yeah.
Short of that, you can stage something in theater that's going to be a scene, that's going to be a frame, right? But I think the Seachers really does, reinvent cinema in a way, but it does it in a package so that it's not so jarring for the American audiences. Yeah. It's not jarring. This doesn't feel like a fucking Godard film, It doesn't feel like it feels like an American fucking John Wayne picture, And I'm doing the twang accent on purpose. It doesn't feel different. But when you start analyzing it, you're like, holy shit. Like, he's easing me into this, but it's not that different. Like, he's easing me into this. It's not that different, but it's immensely complex. And I think John Ford is a great magician for that, man. I think he's a fucking terrific magician for that.
A couple of little things I want to just throw in there. Quick little analysis of the film and looking at the different layers. I love how the one character that we look at for being the craziest and then just kind of like the wildest, dopiest character, I forgot what his name is, but it's the guy who just wants a rocking chair in a house.
Yeah, what's up with that guy?
And I love looking at moments like those or characters like those, and especially like his dialogue, because I notice that every time you look at him, he's just he's representative of what like all these characters kind of want, but they're fools for wanting, which is just like, I just want to be able to sit down comfortably in a chair of my own, in a house of my own, and that's
by
it.
a fire.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, as much as they're going off and being these heroes and you're joining the cavalry or you're joining the Texas Rangers and you're trying to be this hero, nobody kind of wants that. Everybody just wants to get to a place where they can just be sitting down comfortably.
That's how horrible it was back in the day.
Yeah, and then also the fact that that's the town fool almost, like, oh man, this poor guy wants
gesture.
to sit down and in his home and do nothing, and it's kind of like, but they all had to just kind of go there.
Not only that, but he was giving good insight. That's probably why they brought him along, right? Like people just thought he was the dunce who was another pair of hands, but he was giving insight on like the trails and like the whole thing that he did with like no eyes doesn't get you into the afterlife or whatever. He was interpreting for them. And like,
no, wasn't that Wayne's character that the reason he shot him? He's like, oh, it's not doing you any good, and he's like, oh no, they don't have eyes, they are stuck in purgatory.
Yeah, but that's what he was doing. He was doing that before Wayne said it. Oh, so like again, Wayne,
he knew this stuff. Yeah, because he's also like one of the few people that got like captured by the Indians. And then he survived.
And then you know what he said, right? Like what he said on how he survived.
How?
So they played me for the fool. Like they played me I wasn't gonna say anything.
I ate dirt and ate grass. And
That's what that meant.
I made myself look crazy so that they can release me.
Meant.
So that I wasn't of any value to them.
He's trying to make him.
Yeah, like he's smarter than he beats on, right? Obviously. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, that character's great. I also wondered if he was based on Dopey, from Snow White and Seven Dwarfs. He looked like him. He acted like him a little bit, but he was also the most endearing character.
Yeah, like he's the one that if anybody died, and if he died, it'd be like if a little puppy died. Like you would feel terrible,
not that guy.
And you'd want to kill everybody who hurt him. You know,
it's like the John Wick of quirky dudes.
Yeah. Also, again, more commentary. What an interesting perspective and scene on the fight for this girl's hand in marriage.
Yeah.
And all these weird kind of like if you wanted to psychoanalyze the whole thing, you could. But the fact that like they both know that they're fighting for this woman that they both love, but if they're gonna fight, they have to do it right. They have to be proper about it. But really, they're coming up with the rules.
What I love about it too is like, sure, there's a damsel in distress element if you want, but it's not romantic.
Yeah,
that's fucking cool.
Yeah.
I love that a lot. I love when somebody can do that because then again, it stops becoming a trope.
Yeah.
It's a niece/daughter and it's a sister, a surrogate sister.
But what did you say? Why was it so cordial, the fight?
No, just that there are these they're
the
rules,
comedic factor.
They're rules that we're self-imposing, and we're gonna let this Reverend/Captain, who, if you think about that, the highest authority in two realms, right? Reverend, as far as like him being a religious authority, and Captain as him being like
a violent authority.
Yeah, a violent authority. Right. And it doesn't matter what hat he's wearing, but we're always gonna listen to him.
But I love that even in the fight where he's like, all right, does this have to do with his arrest? No. It's more of a private fight. All right,
that's fine.
No biting, no gouging, no gouging, and
and then kicks the guy.
Oh, dude, he just fucking.
But again, it's this weird kind of thing that's who we're listening to, and as long as he says it's fine, then we can all watch and we can all like be placing bets and like laughing and rooting for somebody.
What was his name? John Wayne's character. Ethan. Ethan's character is kind of the anti-societal factor, right? Because he's not listening to that guy. In fact, he left that guy. He abandoned that guy long ago. But I love how that's a societal commentary on us, right? Like we're either listening to our priests or to our leaders.
Which is true, yeah.
I mean, that's very much what we're doing nowadays.
No, and then also, but again, Ethan is this interesting piece of Americana that he also represents this whole like, oh, remember, you're a lady, you shouldn't have to see this, and he himself is supposed to be the definition of what should be
but
done.
Again, it's not showing it's not showing it as an inherently coherent right thing to do, because everybody in their seats are sitting there like, okay, why'd you push her in? Like, so what? She's a lady, who cares? Like everybody in their seats is saying that because that's what you believe. That's what you believe. That's what the audience is believing. It's saying it more as a commentary. It's saying it like, come on, dude. Like, it's not that serious. And you're not that guy. Like, just let it be. So, yeah.
Also, going back to, like, when you look at, like, battles that are happening in all places, what a weird moral dilemma. Like, I mean, she's getting married because she feels like this guy genuinely abandoned her. And really, you're only rooting for their love because there's a few shots of them both looking happy together. But it felt like a very Umbrellas of Cherbourg moment where, you know, this guy leaves. She doesn't know. She's kind of just left there. And then when she marries somebody else, do you want to get mad at her? Or do you want to be understanding? And even that guy is like, hey, this is my wife that I'm about to have.
My fiancé.
My fiancé. And, you know, like, he's a very respectable guy. Yeah. Like, he's not treating her bad.
Weirdest guy ever, bro.
No, he's
but
weird.
He has a good heart.
Yeah,
you know,
he has a
like,
really good heart. Like, he's trying to play a song to cheer her up because she's not feeling well. You can see that, like, when somebody's like,
skip to my
yeah, right. He's trying to, like, say, like, hey, don't do that. And then, you know, even when they're, like, going out the door, they're both like, you first. No, it's okay. You first. Like, there's such a nice element to his character.
That's such a Blazing Saddles moment.
Yeah.
That whole sequence is such a Blazing Saddle moment. But again, that's what I love about The Searchers. It's not a straight Cowboys versus Indians thing. It's a commentary on society, but it's also extremely comedic. Like, it's also very comedic. There's a lot of comedic moments in this. But again, because it's commenting on society being shit. Like, it's
also like
the guy with the sword.
Man, yeah, I was gonna say, like, John Wayne's kid, the doofiest character, where everybody's just like, oh, you know how you can really help me? Leaving. You could really help me right now by leaving. And he's just always trying to, like, oh, my commanding officer, my dad, sergeant. Like, that guy's great.
Yeah.
But again, it's really interesting to look into each of these characters, each of these moments, and again, you deciding who's in the right and the wrong. The one moment last moment I wanted to kind of bring up that, to me, I think is very indicative of this kind of moral dilemma that the audience should be in, or just experiencing the gray area of it all.
Yeah.
Is the moment when they go in to raid the village. Because, yeah, sure, they're trying to rescue this girl, right? But if you look at it, like, the way that they raid this small Indian, like, tribe, village, whatever you want to call it, like
teepees or
yeah, like the little, like, camp that they have, is that they raid exactly the same way that the Indians raid them every time. It's a bunch of horses going through. They're shooting everybody. There's a moment where they even, like, knock over some lady. I don't know if that was scripted or unscripted. But you see her just get, like, knocked over. And I mean, that same kind of savagery of, like, we don't care who we're shooting, just start firing men. Like, that's the same kind of savagery that they hate them for, because that's what they do. And then at the very end, it's just the fact that we know these characters and we know who they're saving that makes us feel like, oh, the good guys won. Yeah. But really, like, when watching it right now, you look at that moment and, oh my God, they look like animals. And the fact that, like, you see women and children running away from them, they have their own families and their own lives. And again, it's just this final little, like, you're going to look at this scene and think, oh, they're great and they're heroes and all that. But if you really think about the scene, were they in the right? Were they in the wrong? Is there really a hero and a villain in all of this? And that's lovely when a film is able to make you think about all that. But just those moments that I want to highlight on. Carlos, you busted out the box of Wayne.
He bought this.
I just
bought this exclusively for this film.
I wondered if that whole thing rang true of, like, Hollywoodizing the Western.
Yeah,
you know how we, Back to the Future 3, they dress Marty like this, and it's completely wrong.
Yeah.
They dress him like Clint Eastwood or like fucking John Wayne with a pink bandana around his neck, and it's like,
gonna give you to the count of 10.
You know what I mean? 10. But I was just wondering that.
Sorry.
The Searchers. And the rating chases.
9, 10.
Oh, give me a countdown, but starting from.
That was a Western.
10. I love it.
That was a Western.
I forgot we always used to do, like, compare other films so we could let the audience know.
Films that you would watch based off of, like, this film. I think the reason we stopped doing that is because we've been doing a lot of genre months. True. So basically, if you want another film that's like this,
stick around for next week.
Can stick around for next week's film, which is...
I think it's Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Is it?
Yeah, it's either yours or True Grit. Because I think the last one is...
It's Castro.
Also True Grit.
That'll be interesting. Are you guys? Let us know if you guys are cool with that. We were battling with this decision because originally we were gonna do There Will Be Blood, but we'll make more announcements later on in the year. We're gonna do later on into next year rather. We're gonna do more auteur months, which focus specifically on directors. So
we could probably save that.
We might save There Will Be Blood for Paul Thomas Anderson month, but. Let us know if you guys are cool with us doing 2 Coen brother movies back to back. Because we would be doing True Grit and Ballad of Buster Scruggs. But we did that for, Spielberg month, basically.
Yeah.
For Blockbuster month, so maybe it doesn't matter.
It kind of leads us into it,
Yeah.
I would want to do, maybe we could talk about it for next year. I would want to do more classic Westerns.
You got into it? You got...
Well, I mean, I think we have to go... I think we have to go see where we've been to know where we're going. So
yeah,
I would want to be exposed to that a little more. But I couldn't say another Western that I'd directly compare this to. I mean, True Grit has a lot of this.
To explore again the spaghetti Western, the Man with No Name trilogy.
Yeah, for sure.
And really dissect that apart. But, it just...
I would toss spaghetti Westerns in their own genre. I wouldn't toss them with American Westerns.
I would.
Yeah.
I would kind of mix that salad,
Yeah, same.
That'd be interesting.
Because I feel like, one for one, as we see, what they got inspired from, we're also seeing, I think the spaghetti Western defines what a lot more people would, iconicize as a Western, To me, I feel like that was when Western already had a genre, but then these ones made them into...
They reimagined them.
Yeah.
They reimagined them. I mean, the Westerns were dying in the 70s, and then...
look at, Back to the Future... They call the guy Clint Eastwood because of how iconicized the spaghetti Western made Clint Eastwood and his character and all that. And that being the definition
that's
of
also
Western.
because it was in the 80s, and that's when spaghetti Westerns were a thing.
No. Weren't they earlier?
70s and the 80s.
Yeah. But when did McFly come out?
80s.
85, 80.
Well, he could have called himself John Wayne, but no, they went with...
You're right.
Yeah.
Stick to the times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next week we'll be covering True Grit.
Yeah.
I really love True Grit. It was one of those.
It's been a while.
The new one.
Both
Coen
at
Brothers
the same time. We're gonna put
the
on
Coen Brothers one. I just feel like it. For me, it was one of those films that caught me by surprise. I didn't expect to like it that much.
Yeah,
because I didn't.
I've seen it once in a long time.
Never seen it.
I've never seen either.
Okay. You've only seen it once?
I've seen it once.
Yeah, man. I think the reason I was exposed to it was because I was in a Coen Brothers kick after watching Hail Caesar, and I kind of went back, and I also was surprised that Haley Steinfeld was nominated for an Oscar at 14, and I was like, what for what? And then I saw the film and I realized why. It was for True Grit. She was nominated for an Oscar at 14 years old.
Weren't you kind of I wouldn't say against, but you were you're I don't get the Coen Brothers.
I thought they were hit or miss. Yeah. I remember I know everybody in this room loves The Big Lebowski. I don't love it. I think it's cool. I think it's funny. I think it's fun. I don't think it's groundbreaking. I think it's a cult classic.
You're crazy.
But when I saw other films of theirs, like Ballad of Buster Scruggs, or for me, it's Hail Caesar. Hail Caesar strikes a chord with me.
But even Hail Caesar, you didn't.
At first, I didn't
understand
get it.
it.
Yeah,
you were just kind of
no, I understood it. It was just boring. And then I saw it a couple more times. I was like, oh shit, they're onto something. I felt that way with Burn After Reading. The first time I saw it, I was and then I saw it again, and I'm like, oh, man, these dudes are fucking cool.
Burn After Reading is kind of weird.
Yeah. So,
I just think that
they were hit or miss for me, Austin, for sure. Not anymore. I think they're all tours, man. I think they have something something big to say. But they're also kind of I think they're too full of themselves now. I don't know what kind of cinema is going to come out of them.
They're very they're just over in themselves for thinking that they're the best.
Yeah.
What's the last things they've done?
They broke up. So they started doing stuff individually. Ethan Coen went and did shit like Drive Away Dolls, which is this fun runaway kind of a crime movie with girls. But Joel Coen went artistic, and he did a Shakespeare film. He did a black and white.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
the one with Denzel.
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The Tragedy of Macbeth. Yeah.
He did the Tragedy of Macbeth starring Denzel.
Why did they break up though?
They're brothers. They want to do other shit. Okay. I think the last thing they did together was the Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Yeah.
But they did come back for the new one. If you go to upcoming,
Ballad of Buster 2 Scruggs.
No, they're doing a new film, or maybe it's just Ethan. Maybe he's just credited as upcoming. Maybe it just might. Yeah, I thought I had heard they'd come back together. Apparently not.
And you don't.
Once that's not announced
Chris
yet.
Evans.
What?
Go to Joel.
Oh, that it's both of them? Nah, it would be.
Go to Joel.
Because I mean,
Upcoming.
well,
Yeah, maybe.
there's no upcoming for Joel.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was weird.
What do I say, please? What's the last one?
I will say I kind of like Joel a little more
Fargo.
than Ethan.
It's a tragedy.
I will say, just in terms of the name Ethan, in case you guys cared about this was one of John Wayne's top 3 favorite films of his.
I read that.
And he named his kid Ethan after his character. Ethan,
this guy?
Ethan Wayne.
Or it was another guy?
No. John Wayne.
Yeah, but not.
Wait a
not
minute,
the,
but his kid was in the movie.
Yeah,
or
not
he
the,
had
not the
He had
kid.
multiple kids.
Oh, okay.
He had
Prove
multiple
it.
kids. No, the one that was in the movie, his name's Patrick. Patrick
Yeah,
Wayne.
and it still wouldn't make sense, right? My bad. It wouldn't make sense.
No,
my
yeah,
bad.
but he had a kid named Ethan, and he named him after his
I
character.
got it.
Imagine being 19 and your dad makes a really good film. He's like, I'm going to rename you. Is that cool?
We're going to court and we're changing your name.
Yeah, it's like, but dad.
That's what I thought about. I was like, it doesn't make any sense.
Shut up, Bobby. You don't need.
You're not Bobby no more.
Your name's Ethan. Doesn't it feel good, Ethan? Let me rub your little Ethan head.
Well, anyways, catch
Dad,
us
I'm
next
19.
week.
Catch us next week
Before
for
these
True
guys
Grit.
keep fondling each other.
Yeah. I might watch the old one just for reference sake. I haven't seen the old one.
I haven't seen it either. Gonna watch it together?
Is it one that you have to watch? Like, to
No, definitely not.
I was like-
Definitely not.
I feel
It's
like
a remake. It's a blatant remake, but like fucking Jeff Bridges and Matt Damon are the leads. You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like, pretty cool. I love it, man. I think the new True Grit.
By
Or
the way,
the,
I think Oh Brother Where Art Thou was my favorite Coen Brothers film.
I'm sorry to hear about that.
I have not seen that one.
yeah, that's a good strong
Oh, is that
case.
with
That's probably my number 2.
The guy from Get Out?
It's with George Clooney.
Oh, okay, no. You
And
told me
it-
the one with Get Out guy.
And it's got
The guy from
The other guy, not
in
the guy
Ballad
that,
Buster, right?
no.
Get Out. Get Out.
Tartar,
Oh,
or
Lakeith
what's his
Stanfield.
name?
Which one?
What's his name? The guy who plays Brucey in Longest Yard. His brother's in it too.
The guy who plays what?
The guy who plays Brucey in Longest Yard. What's his name?
Brucey and
Oh
Longest
yeah,
Yard.
yeah.
Oh.
Totoro.
Yeah, his brother's in it.
Nick Tortoro. Yeah. He was the Coen Brothers guy. I mean, he's in fucking Big Lebowski.
Popcorn.
He's
Ice
Jesus
popcorn.
Rolls, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you though with Lebowski. I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah, get
Oh,
out
my
of here, man.
God.
Get out of here.
I need
I'm with you.
I need to watch it again. I mean, I will say though, Oh Brother Where Art Thou was probably my second favorite. It's probably my favorite Roger Deakins shot thing of everything.
Oh my
I fucking love his cinematography in this, and
my God.
yeah. But Hell Caesar's probably still my favorite. Oh my God. No, you know what? Oh Brother's third, because Ballad
you
is
don't even
2.
know, bro.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen Ballad.
You guys didn't like Fargo, did you?
Wait, I think I've seen 2
Okay.
of the stories in Ballad, and that's it.
I want to catch
really-
the series. Did you catch the series?
Fargo.
No, I
Just the
haven't.
movie?
But,
Fargo was fun.
Oh, look, he's
Fargo
got
was cool.
right there.
but again, Fargo is based off of something that is likely to have happened there.
Yeah.
Because,
yeah.
so
Amazing.
I think with the series, it was supposed to be like more things like that would
Which
like.
it changes each season. Like
Yeah,
one
it
was Chris
changes.
Rock and the other one was some lady.
Let us know what your favorite Coen Brothers film is,
Yes.
and
Your favorite Western.
and your favorite Western, and join us for True Grit next week. Week after that, we'll be doing the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and then to end Western month, we'll be doing, or is it the other way around?
Yeah, you have it right.
Okay, and then to end Western month, we're gonna get into Hell or High Water, which is I think it was a film that kind of was slept on. You know, I do feel like it was slept on
I
quite a
feel like
bit.
it's been getting a lot more love recently.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So kick back, grab a beer, and just listen to his podcast.
Yeah,
It'd be
thank
fun.
you for tuning in to the WatchTower
Yes,
podcast.
Or
absolutely.
listening.
Or listening. I mean, you know, either one.
Make sure to like
uh,
and subscribe.
Please, if you got this far along and you aren't already subscribed,
Yes.
Tell us who has the
Tell
best
'em.
fast food fries.
that's true. We were having a long debate on, or I think Coster can break it down better.
No, I'm good.
No, just let
Okay.
us know who you think the best fast food.
The question is, why can't a place have a good burger and good fries? It's always one or the other.
Yes.
And we agreed that the worst is Wendy's.
worse for both,
Yeah.
or worse
No.
fries.
Fry.
They're
The worst for
bad.
both is actually a good question. I'd probably go Sonic.
I love Sonic. Sonic
Sonic
burgers are
burgers?
awesome.
What?
Not compared to Whataburger.
I haven't had a
I
Sonic
like the
burger that
Wendy's.
is like had an impression.
I was having that argument
worst
with
for
Andrew
burgers, I'd say
because
McDonald's.
we were
Tater
craving-
tots probably are good, but
we were craving. Yeah, tater tots are great. We were craving Sonic, and Sandra was like, I'm gonna get a hot dog. She's like, that's what you get at Sonic, or you go for a fucking footlong. And I'm like, but I love the burgers here. She's like, you don't come to Sonic for the burgers. You come to Sonic for the hot dogs. I was like,
Exactly.
yeah, I guess you're right.
or like
Exactly.
the mozzarella sticks.
Yeah, the mozzarella sticks are.
I haven't
always
tried
at
those.
half.
I like the cheddar peppers. I know, like Austin said, I
Yeah.
love them.
I'm a
I
pretzel
love the cheddar
man
peppers.
myself.
You are. Thank you for tuning into the WatchTower Film Podcast. Good night.
Have a good night. I love you guys.
All right, it's a personal fighter.
Huh?
No biting, no gouging.
All right.
Come on, just you or me and the fisticuffs.